Last night, the clocks changed. It's time to spring forward with Travelcaster, the travel pod that takes you there. Our trip from North to South Europe has reached its halfway point. In time, that is. Technically, in distance, we've got a long way to go. We've covered 2,100 kilometres so far, taken 8 trains, and we're about to leave Germany to head into another country. So join us on the journey. So welcome to a bright and sunny Bremen in Germany on a Sunday morning. We've so far covered 5 cities on our trip and we've got 4 more to go. The next one though is going to be what I just call a quick stopover. We're going to the city of Basel in Switzerland, which has lots to offer according to people that have been there, but we're going to get there fairly late this evening and not until about 6 o'clock. And so exploring the place is going to be somewhat limited, not least when we've got to be out of the place by 8:30 tomorrow morning if we're going to hit our deadline of hitting Barcelona by Wednesday. Well, Deutsche Bahn kind of delivered us on time to Basel here in Switzerland. We're about 20 minutes behind schedule, but that's no big deal. Now, as we travelled from northern to southern Germany, the landscape changed quite a bit actually. The economic centre of Frankfurt, and then as we headed further south, the landscape changed from industrial to agricultural, more farms opening up, big swathes of land, and eventually, as we crossed the border to Switzerland, yes, mountains began to appear. So we're here at the northern town, or the northern Swiss town of Basel, just here for an evening to make our onward connection ever further south tomorrow. As we exit the station, lots of activity around here. It's really busy. I tell you what, this reminds me of a little bit of Luxembourg, in that it's not the picture postcard chocolate box that you imagine it to be. There is a hive of activity with trams terminating here. There's 1 or 2 people begging for money. Fortunately though, I can see my hotel. It's just across from the station concourse, so not far to walk at all. So inside at the Hotel Schweizerhof, and this is rather nice. They've given me a Basel pass, which gives me free public transport and discount to several attractions in the city. Probably not going to be able to see any of them though, because I'm only here for a night. But let's check out the room, and oh my, it's another room that has its own postcode. This is enormous, huge bed. There's a TV screen that looks like it should be in a conference room somewhere, and oh, look at this. It does have a balcony overlooking the city centre. Hello, Basel. You're looking lovely this evening. You really are. I'm very impressed so far. Now, Basel stands across the River Rhine, which is very wide at this point, and on this Sunday evening quite cold and windy. But it's an important crossroads in many ways between North and South Europe, and indeed a border between Switzerland, Germany and France. Now, Basel's a very walkable city, but if you are staying in a hotel, you will get that free Basel card, which gives you free public transport. And from the main station area, you take any tram that's going to the Kunstmuseum, many of them do, get off there, cross the road, and turn left along Ritterstraße. And what you will find then is here, the Münsterplatz, the square in which stands the amazing cathedral overlooking the River Rhine. Absolutely beautiful structure. And all along the Ritterstraße are your stereotypical Swiss chocolate box buildings that you imagine, with brightly painted facades, shuttered windows, gabled roofs, all of that kind of thing. On a Sunday evening in March, Münsterplatz is a very peaceful area, and a lot of the buildings around here actually belong to schools or universities, but I can see 1 or 2 restaurants and tables laid out for the season, But this doesn't look like the kind of place that would be overdeveloped and over-touristy, even in the middle of the season. So it strikes me as quite a peaceful place to come, contemplate the world, and just look at some gorgeous buildings. There is, of course, a much more commercial side of Basel. Just a few steps away from the great cathedral is a modern city centre. The tram's just dinging and going by as we stand here. Loads and loads of shops, cafes and bars. Lots of retail to be done here. Talking of which, bear in mind that you will be paying for things here in Swiss francs. Now, after the Nordic countries and their various kroner, I just about gotten used to the euro in Germany yesterday, and now we're on to Swiss francs. Now, fortunately, Swiss francs are roughly tied to the euro in their value, so when you see something in Swiss francs, it's about the same in euro. That's the best way of looking at it. However, it can be blooming expensive here. It's like being in Norway again. Although less cold, which is a bonus.
This is Travelcaster.
This is Travelcaster.
This is Travelcaster.
This is Travelcaster.
The travel pod that takes you there.
We're continuing our journey from north to south across Europe. We've so far covered Norway, Sweden, Germany and Switzerland, and today we'll head into France to the southern port of Marseille.
Well, it was the briefest of sojourns, but we've ticked Basel off the list now of places we've visited. I might go back again. Seemed rather nice. That hotel was absolutely gorgeous, and low season, €125 for the night was particularly good. Now, this morning though, we are heading due south. Our journey today is going to take in about 5.5 hours of travelling time on the train, with just one connection at Mulhouse in France. It's just over the border, and it's well connected from Basel. There are trains about every 15 minutes. Now, bear in mind when you get into that situation, you're looking at the planner on the app, there may be some trains that aren't included in the past network, particularly the high-speed, long-distance ones, which you may not be able to use. But with something like, 4 or 5 connections an hour, getting a train to Mulhouse has been easy. And this is one of the TER, the France regional trains, that seem to stop at every station and go rather slowly. But this part of the journey is still only 30 minutes, so we should be in Mulhouse in good time for our connection onward. Now, when you arrive at Marseille St Charles station, you'll probably be heading downstairs towards the metro to get to the city centre. But before you do that, do 2 things when you're still on the upper concourse. First, head over to the bright windows by the left and say hello to people who might be playing the piano, like this. And then, when you've said hello to the piano players, come out through the little wooden doors onto this, a magnificent terrace overlooking the whole city. This is where to get your first selfie of the day, because you get the most beautiful views of the citadel, the cathedral on the hill, and all the way down to the viewport, the old port. And there's another bit of history here that I hadn't quite understood until I arrived. So on this rather windy Monday afternoon, here's the spooky connection between where we've come from and where we've arrived. Here in Marseille, I noticed on the map a reference to Narvik Square at the front of St Charles Station. And I thought, what's that about? I looked it up. It turns out that there are many Narvik squares across France, dedicated to the French troops who joined the rest of the Allies in the famed Battle of Narvik, the one that we were discovering around about a week ago in the Arctic Circle. And here we are in the south of France, seeing a reminder of that place. Quite incredible. And here we have arrived at the Resid Hotel, just a street away from the viewport, the old port. Absolutely beautiful. It looks out there today. Just coming into the room now. And this is an apartment hotel, so you've got the kitchenette thing that we've experienced elsewhere on this trip. Good dining room table there, nice bed. It's not quite the majestic proportions that we had in Bremen or in Basel as we were last night, but it's good enough. It's got a fridge, it's got a sink, it's got a kettle, everything that you need for your catering arrangements. Now, a word on transport. Marseille has an excellent bus and metro system, and these days there's a big improvement because you can just simply pay by using your bank debit or credit card. Just tap it on the reader as you enter the bus or the metro, and it's going to calculate the best price for you. Just 2 stops from the metro down to the viewport. You're going to be taking the blue line, M1, and the metros go every 5 to 6 minutes. I am really pleased with the location of my hotel. It's just 1 street away from the viewport. Last time I was here, I was staying a little while away from here. So it means I can just step out and come out here onto the front. And the viewport, the old port, is a kind of horseshoe-shaped promenade in which there is a harbour full of boats, lovely-looking boats. I mean, they're all gorgeous. Some of them worth millions, some of them worth not so much. But it's just an absolute joy to be down here in the south of France. And looking across the viewport, look up to the hill and you'll see a gold-topped basilica, a church, the Notre Dame de la Garde, guarding over fishermen and the city for centuries as a place of worship, although the current building dates back to the 1800s. It's not that old at all, but it's a beautiful sight from down here. And on a sunny day like today, a perfect place to get that selfie with that monument, that iconic building in the background. And when it's less windy than it is today, I'm going to take a bus up there and see what the city looks like from the top. One thing that you can really savour in Marseille is a meal or a drink with a real view. And yes, you can go up high over the viewport and see it from there. Or you could come up here to Le Panier, one of the oldest districts of the city. It's full of narrow streets, graffiti and street art absolutely everywhere. And it's the home of some of the city's best independent businesses. I'm standing here on a terrace outside the Marafiki tropical restaurant. It's closed at the moment, but when it's open, you can sit out here on the terrace, just overlook the new port of the city down the narrow streets of Le Panier. It's quite a sight, and it's one of those views that you won't necessarily get if you stay on the tourist trail in Marseille. You've got to seek these places out. That's what we're here for at Travelcaster.
In fact, you can explore over 50 different destinations at travelcaster.blog. And if you'd like to find out more about Marseille, check out Season 6, Episode 2 for more great tips of things to do in this enchanting city.
Having visited a place more than once means that you get an idea of where the best bits are. And while many visitors to Marseille hang around the viewport, I think the best thing to do is to head 2 blocks back up here to Saint Victor, where you will relax with the locals. You'll probably pay about 20% less for your food and drink than you will down by the water, and the atmosphere is just as nice. In fact, come with me outside this bar called the Fat Fish, onto the terrace, where despite the wind, people are enjoying what looks to be an amazing sunset that's about to happen over the water. And in fact, if I perch up here, I'm almost blinded by the light over the water and the historic buildings around here. It's beautiful. This is a view that you won't pay too much for. Saint Victor. Smell any hotel room or indeed bathroom in Marseille and it will likely be very fragrant. And that's no coincidence, because Marseille was once home of France's booming soap industry. The Savon brand, in fact, can only be made in this part of the world. It's got a protected regional order on it. And the Calanque Islands, just off the coast of Marseille here, were once an important part of the soap's production, because it's where they would mine and produce the soda. There was also iron smelting going on out there. Basically all of the industries that were declared too dirty to be done here on the mainland. Now today the Calanque have turned into a wonderful national park where you can go and explore the coves, go swimming, see historic buildings, that kind of thing. Unfortunately it's too windy today, and even though I'd booked a trip on the boat, it's not running. However, the lady behind the counter has promised me an online refund, so at least that's something. Therefore, I have the rest of the day to explore other parts of this city. So with no boats running today, we've made our way up to the Notre Dame de la Garde, the striking hilltop basilica that you can see from many parts of Marseille. The building you see today dates back from the 1830s, but the first site of a chapel here for travellers was in around about 1214. That was when the first mention was made. And over the years, this strategic location, 150 metres above sea level, became really important as a fortress and lookout point for any invaders to Marseille. It really is a beautiful sight. And here's a Travelcaster tip. You will see throughout the city the tacky tourist train that climbs up this hill and will charge you a fortune. Instead, just get the number 60 bus. It goes every 15 to 20 minutes and costs you less than €3 for the trip. At Travelcaster, there is nothing we like more than a church, often a place of quiet contemplation, sometimes places where we can't even record inside because of the silence. Not here in Marseille though, it's absolutely packed. Coming through the hallways to the Basilica of the Notre Dame de la Garde was like trying to get into a busy nightclub, such were the numbers. And when we're in here, people aren't sitting down and praying at all. They're holding up their phones for selfies. We are recording this in Easter week, it has to be said, so maybe the popularity is thus. But be prepared if you come here during the season. You may have to queue to get in. At least it's free of charge. Now, having earlier been told that the tourist boat out to the Calanque Islands wasn't running today, I was just coming down from the Basilica and I noticed on the right-hand side of the viewport, Le Bateau, which is a ferry service. Yes, it's partly here for the tourists, but it's also here for the locals. And the weather hasn't stopped it running today. They haven't cancelled the sailing. So it looks like we are going to get off to the Calanque after all. And a return trip, which takes about 15 minutes each way, comes in at just under €12. But it's a good way to get out and see Marseille from a different angle, on the water. Now, the sailing to the island of Friel, one of the Calanques, only took about 20 minutes, but it was really choppy out there. The boat was swaying from side to side, and there was no seating outside. All the passengers were forbidden from that. They had to sit inside. And even then, as we were going through the swell, some of the water was coming through the doors on the decks into the cabin, which made a few people a little bit nervous. But here we are. It's a windy day, but it's a beautifully sunny day. The visibility is absolutely perfect. And Friel, well, it's one of the islands that you can explore here. Plenty of walking to be done by the looks of it. Trails up the hillside and around the harbour here. And one or two eateries which I'm going to now explore, see if I can get some lunch. The idea being I'm going to eat early today so that it settles before the stormy ride back. So, boat trips in Marseille. Yes, you can take one of the many tourist services from the viewport and pay as much as you like. Or you can take Le Bateau, which is run by the local municipality. It's part of the public transport system here, and it's a lot cheaper because it's used by locals as well as tourists. They'll roughly get you to the same places, and no, you won't get a running commentary of every place that you visit on Le Bateau, but you will get there in just the same amount of time and pay a whole lot less. Now, here's a surprising find that many people will overlook. Just a few steps from the viewport is the Bourse shopping centre. Ignore that, walk straight past it, and head for the gates for the Marseille History Museum, because you will walk firstly through a garden. There's like no other, because this tells the history of the city. It was the main entrance, the gateway, and all around are remains of the walls of different buildings, and lots of interpretation boards to tell you exactly what they're about. Best of all, the museum itself is free to get in. And actually, there's a connection between the Grossi shopping centre and the museum that we're in now, because in 1967, when the foundations were being laid for the shopping centre, they found all of this, Roman remains, including an incredible example of a boat. Marseille was formed by the Romans. They were attracted here by its natural port, and one of the oldest boats in existence is laid out here, or the remains of it are at least. You can certainly see the shape, you can certainly see the age of the wood, and it certainly seems a little bit more stable than Le Bateau that we were on a little bit earlier today. The Marseille History Museum is well worth an hour or so of your time because it really brings together everything that we've seen here. The history of the Romans, the tradition of maritime transport and boats, the places of worship high on the hills, and the fortifications of this great city. It's been a fantastic 48 hours in Marseille, but our trip continues on the final leg of our north to south journey across Europe. To find out how to get here and what to do when you arrive, check out travelcaster.blog, subscribe to the podcast, and join us again soon for another edition of Travelcaster, the travel pod that takes you there.